Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Steve Hoare. I have just spoken to Paul Gorst on Journo Insight. We discussed Morgan Rogers and Liverpool's apparent interest in the Aston Villa midfielder. Is he available? Do Liverpool like him? Do Villa have to sell him? Is there a PSR stuff and all that going on? Who knows? We'll find out. So yeah, check out the full clip with me and Paul. If you want to watch or listen to the show in its entirety, head on over to redmenplus.com. If you do so now, you can do it for free. redmenplus.com. Subscribe as a monthly captain subscriber. Use the promo code CHAMPIONS when you do so, and you won't be charged for your first month. So check out the show, everything else we've got, and celebrate Liverpool being the Premier League champions over on Redmen Plus. Right, let's get on with the show. Can I speak to you about Morgan Rogers? So Fabrizio Romano reported Liverpool have been keeping an eye on Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. Goes on to say in the piece that Liverpool have been scouting him for a while now. However, the deal for Rodgers is seen complicated by LFC. Is this a name that you've heard through the whispers before? Is this a new thing? And yeah, could you see a world where Liverpool trying to sign Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa?
Yeah, it's a new one, to be fair. But every time I watch him, I think he's a brilliant player.
Yeah,
absolutely motors through that midfield, carries the ball so well. You know, brilliant sort of ball carrier, and he's been a big part of what Villa have done this season. So, you know, it's not incredibly far-fetched that Liverpool would be taking a look and liking what they're seeing. You know, he's only a young lad. What is he, 22 now? Something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. That'll tell you that Liverpool are looking for maybe a bit more power in central areas, you know, almost like another Zabozlai, if you like. I think Liverpool, certainly in the Carabao Cup final, they were overpowered, weren't they, by Newcastle's direct, aggressive approach. And it didn't happen too often, but it almost feels like if you can get at Liverpool, that is the way to do it, by being aggressive and more powerful on them. Morgan Rogers would sort of redress that balance, I'd say, brilliantly. I think he's a fantastic player. Do Villa have any PSR issues coming up? You know, that has been a question at times, hasn't it? And it could be an issue this summer. It certainly was last year when they were doing deals, you know, for... I think they were offloading the likes of Tim Robinham to Everton and looking to sort of balance the books, weren't they?
They were very much part of the PSR merry-go-round. If you sign him off him, we'll have him off you. That young player goes there. It was very much part of the PSR bandwagon. Now, Villa reports at least suggest that they think they're in a much better place PSR-wise. Obviously, they've had a very fruitful Champions League campaign as well, which helps. But I suppose if they don't qualify for the Champions League, which is very that top 5 race at this moment in time is anyone's really. You know, everyone is whether capable of getting there or not. I suppose this one might be more like the Anthony Gordon thing then, Paul, where actually if an opportunity arises, we want to be in the mix for it, because it never felt like Newcastle were looking to sell Anthony Gordon, but they were very nearly forced to. And I wonder if Liverpool have had some type of nods that Villa might have an issue and therefore have a little look at what they've got and then decided, rightly, like this is a good player, you might be able to get that from there.
Yeah, I remember reading a few things about Newcastle last year and speaking to a couple of journalists up in the northeast since, and it sounded like real panic stations towards the end of June last year when the PSR deadline was looming, and that's how they ended up in a position where they were contemplating selling two of the biggest players, really, in Guimaraes, which was never properly on the cards if what you believe is true. But certainly McGordon, you know, there was talk of him maybe doing his medical in Leipzig, wasn't it, when he was on England duty. So that one got quite far down the line before they managed to sell, Yakuba Minteh to Brighton and Elliot Anderson to Nottingham Forest. I think they raised best part of 70 million, maybe even a bit more. So I don't know whether Villa's problems are as pronounced as that. I guess you'd have to speak to journalists in the Midlands who cover the club a bit more closely to get a better update. But yeah, if there are issues there, is there a way to exploit that from Liverpool's perspective? Opportunistic, as the old Richie Hughes saying goes. And Morgan Rogers, every time I see him, I'm sure there are people at the club who are more clued up in terms of what he doesn't do quite so well. But every time I watch him, I think he's a fantastic player. You know, he just looks like he's got so much power and energy and really carries the fight and has got an eye for goal. So I could certainly see him, you know, as Liverpool's most advanced midfielder, powering through and looking to help out.
Positional wise, it'd be interesting because you are right. Actually, one of the things that Arne Slot's been very steadfast in is his midfield. He's picked the same 3 from 4 pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Endo comes on if you're winning to try and kick a few people and shore it up. Harvey Elliott comes on if you're trying to chase a goal. That's been the general blueprint.
Yeah.
Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Jones, 3 of them are on the pitch, and then the other 2 lads come on depending on the situation, either time or whatever. It'd be interesting if Arne Slot, like you mentioned before, we've all been speaking about centre forwards, and Liverpool do need a number 9. Left back has been mentioned, right back's been mentioned, obviously with the future of Trent. Like adding a starting midfielder, because if you sign Morgan Rodgers, he's not coming in to sit on the bench, he's coming in to play more often than not, you would think. That hasn't been something I've really given much thought to, but it'd be interesting if this is purely a specific, this player might be available and we like him kind of deal, or actually Arne Slot and Richard Hughes think that they might want to be able to get a little bit more out of the midfield. Or
maybe they've earmarked them as a sort of number 1 choice, as opposed to just being a bit opportunistic. Yeah, I mean, like I say, he's a brilliant player, and he's forced his way into the England reckoning this season on the back of his performances. I think he's a player with a really big future who was doing it at a really good level. You know, Aston Villa were Champions League quarter-finalists, weren't they? And they are looking to try and get into the Champions League again next season. So, yeah, I could see why those links make sense. And I guess it'd be one to keep an eye on in the next sort of weeks and months.
I suppose one thing that we can speak about now on this is like, because Liverpool, I wonder if this matters or it doesn't, but like Liverpool are champions. At this stage of a year, in times gone by, maybe you wouldn't have a chance to look at things like this. If you're the manager, you're just focused on like, we've got 4 games to go, we need to win every single one of them. We're hoping a Manchester City slip up, or we're preparing for a Champions League semi-final or a final.
Yeah.
Like in theory, with 1 game a week and you're already champions, I wonder if there is just more time and more headspace to actually be looking ahead. Because there was, if you'd have asked Jurgen Klopp 2 years ago what's happening this summer, he'd be like, mate, I'm about to play Real Madrid. I've got a champion. I'm trying to win the league. I'm trying to win a Champions League. I do wonder if plans can be more firmed up or put in place, because there's certainly more time and there's certainly a lot less pressure on these lads now.
100%. Yeah, it almost the March international break is kind of held up, isn't it? As the one where real inroads start to be made on the summer's plans, and it was no surprise to hear that when the Trent news broke, that was sort of when it was, wasn't it? And a couple of years earlier, it come out that Liverpool were stepping away from their interest in Jude Bellingham because they knew the cost and how much it would add up, and he hadn't even committed to joining them at the time. So it feels like this period could be something similar now in the next few weeks, where some real planning is put in place, some real structure for what the summer will look like. And I'm sure, obviously, Richard Hughes has been doing that for months and months, but maybe Arne Slot can give a bit more input than perhaps he's been able to in recent weeks. And look, I think Liverpool privately, they will have been steadfast in their focus and their preparation and stuff, but even the most pessimistic supporters, like I said before, will have known that Liverpool were closing in on the league for a while now. So maybe that's allowed them to do that a little bit more in the last few weeks, but certainly now with a month to play, without anything riding on these last 4 games for Liverpool's perspective, other than finishing with a high points tally, there will be more time to look elsewhere and, sort of start ticking off the to-do list, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed they can do that. Like I say, let us know in the comment section. Morgan Rodgers, like him, don't like him, do you think he'll sign for Liverpool? You can let us know all of that